What's up, everyone, and welcome to Project XTalk, an Xbox podcast, episode number 215, presented by Save the Game Media. I'm your host, Kevin, and on today's episode, oh boy, we got a ton of news for the first full week of January. We got Xbox committing to Handheld, we got a developer direct announcement, we got Assassin's Creed Shadow being delayed, and so much more. Before we get to all that, got to introduce my co-host, JamPackSam. How are you, my friend?
What's up, man? I'm doing very well. I have been playing some games. I've been poking around on the internet, you know, the things that we do. But had leftover tacos for dinner. That was a win. I'll gladly take a leftover taco. We're expecting snow here tonight or tomorrow, which means that the whole city is going to be absolutely, completely in gridlock. So, you know, I'm just getting ready to get locked down for that, but it'll be good. How are you?
How much snow?
I think that we're looking at like probably less than an inch, and then like a tenth of an inch of ice. But you've got to understand that it's kind of like converting to Fahrenheit to Celsius, where it's like a half an inch of snow for us is the equivalent of like 5 inches for people that are actually accustomed to snow. Which you're probably saying, "Wow, that also doesn't sound that bad." It is not, but we just can't handle it. I don't know what happens. People just lose their minds.
Yeah, I saw some people that are in Texas posting pictures of snow, and I'm like, I don't understand what's going on anymore. The world's on fire down there, freezing over here. It was 0 degrees today, and I was like, it's too damn cold.
Yeah, that I mean, I think that whenever I was commuting today, it was like 23. But man, let me tell you, I have a battery powered heated vest. Have you seen these things?
No.
Yeah, so it's got like a little like, you know, you charge your phone with. You've got like you know, it's just like a battery pack, and so you plug your vest into it, and it's got like a built-in, I guess, like, you know, it's like an electric pad in the front and the back. So I'm just standing at the bus stop. Central body, super nice and toasty. Hands, just cut them off. I can't even feel my fingers because it's so cold on my hands. But you know, I'll take what I can get.
Always the worst part in the winter for me. Like if I could everything out, like even when I go out in shorts, I'm like, my legs are like, I can maintain being out here with my legs exposed for a little bit. All right.
Yeah.
But my hands, I'm like,
yeah. I agree.
I have gloves. I just don't use them.
I think that you could probably look at any given calendar year, and 350 of those days, potentially more, I'm wearing shorts. I'm wearing shorts right now because like I don't have pajamas or like house clothes. I just lounge in cargo shorts like I'm a 50-year-old dad going to Old Navy. Like I don't have any kind of like loungewear.
I can't relate to that, but I definitely have loungewear. I have. We'll get into the games, I promise, but I have Star Wars The Last Jedi pajama pants because an old coworker of mine knew I hated that movie, and she thought it was funny to give me them as a gift. Very comfortable, but horrible film.
Pretty solid. I have Nintendo slippers, so you know I rock those with my cargo shorts because you got to keep the dogs warm with the Nintendo slippers, obviously.
All right, everyone. Well, let's get into the gaming discussion. This is Project XTalk. We are live every Thursday right here on YouTube. We got /Save the Game Media. If you can't catch us live, plus every Friday morning on your favorite audio platform of choice. While over there, make sure to drop us that 5-star review, Apple, Spotify. I don't care. You could do it on Google. I don't even know if they have it. Helps us in the algorithms. If you want to support us even further, get early audio access to Save the Game Media content and exclusive bonus content like our upcoming Fantasy Critic Draft, where we're taking the hosts of each show and pitting them against each other in Mortal Kombat Fantasy Critic style. Sam and I are going to redeem ourselves. All right, we came in third last year, but I'm gonna talk. I know what we're doing, Sam. All right,
I'm ready.
I want to buy you. All right,
you're the leader here, man.
All right, so head over to patreon.com/Save the Game Media. Choose the tier that's right for you, like our current Patreon supporters. So thank you to Fabulous Brianna, Rick Davis, Chad, Elderwoods Parker III, Silkenet, Lee Navarro, the Xbox Expansion Pass, Dave Harp, David Hotright, Lillian, Marcus O'Neill, Brendan Myers, Cypher, Primus, Nikolai at Night, Lindsay, Brianna's mom, and Brianna's brother. Thank you all for your support. We appreciate each and every one of you. That's housekeeping out of the way, Sam. So why don't we jump into what have we been playing?
So I'm going to start with the story time side of this because that leads into the Flintlock side of this. So I put on our notes here, I have not been playing VR. Okay, Kevin, let me tell you why. So I'm working out in Supernatural VR Fitness. Okay. I do VR in this room. It's a room that's like very snugly fitting the boundaries of what requires a MetaQuest, like feeling around and it's like pretty tight. So every time I move my arms near the boundaries, this kind of like virtual wall pops up to let me know that I'm near the boundary, which is not intended to be because the engineers designed it that way. Me being the genius I am, I'm like, yeah, turn all that off. Like,
oh no,
I don't need any of that. I know how big this room is. So in Supernatural, you're like kind of pivoting and turning and like throwing. I'm using the bat thing, so I'm like flinging things. So, anyways, I have a controller in my left hand. All right, so I'm doing my workout. I'm really getting into it, breaking a sweat. Mid workout. At Mach 6, I smacked my left controller into the side of a plastic, like, one of those roller mat things that you have for office chairs. I leaned that up so I can have my carpet for when I'm working out. So at Mach 6, I just smacked this left controller directly into the corner of this plastic mat. And it still functions.
Okay.
or hold on. It still functioned, but I hear a piece of plastic rattling around.
No.
And so I'm like, dang. I still want to keep using this, but I can't handle having this like rattle going on. So me being the engineering genius that I am, I take it apart. I look up the YouTube tutorial. I've got my Torx screwdriver kit out. I'm taking this whole thing apart. I've got my micro center stuff, completely disassemble it, put it back together, and then I super glue it. Oh God. Oh, the super glue. Oh, it went everywhere. It got in the buttons. I cleaned it off. I had nail polish remover. I cleaned it off and I got all the buttons feeling good again. The vibrations don't work. The haptics are completely gone. Oh. So I totally destroyed that left-handed controller. So super bummed about that. However, ordered a replacement from Meta that's coming tomorrow. So I had to spend $80 that I didn't intend to spend because I just absolutely beelined a left-handed controller directly onto the corner of a chair mat.
Do they sell the controllers individually, or did you have to buy a bundle?
They do. So each of them are $80 a piece.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So, the good thing is this was, I think, Tuesday night, and then I ordered it Tuesday night and now it's coming on Friday. So it's like 3-day shipping, I'm very impressed with all of that. Would rather have not had to find out how fast the shipping was. But I'll be getting back into VR this weekend, and my review's doing really well, and I've got some other stuff playing there. So I'm excited to get back into it. But Kevin, that led me into playing Flintlock Siege of Dawn, because when I can't work out in VR, I might as well get into the backlog. And let me tell you, man, we were talking about it before the show a little bit. I got some issues with this game, man. I've got some big issues with this game.
Hear it. Yes.
So keep in mind, put this on the level of Lords of the Fallen, where it's like, it's on that, like, not quite AAA, not quite AA. It's kind of like in that between. I guess you'd probably call this like a AA game if that's a thing. But I don't mind the combat. I don't mind how many things it throws at you. I think the mechanics of like everything that are in the game are fine. However, the difficulty in some of these boss fights, this game is not good enough to be as difficult as it is. Like whenever I'm playing, we were talking about it before the show, Wolong Fallen Dynasty. Like I loved the vibe that Wolong brought. There was enough there for me to enjoy really getting grilled by these bosses. Here, like I don't really know what's happening with these characters. Everything's just kind of okay. And then I'm just getting absolutely pounded by this final boss fight. I've made it all the way to the final boss. I put in like a significant amount of time into this game over the past week. But this is not one that like I don't not like it, but it's just, it's there, like this is what I would give like this is like a 6 or a 7 for me right now. Like it's fine. Yeah. Functionally the game's okay, but I don't know. It's just like a weird one for me because I was looking forward to it when it was shown off during, the gameplay showcases and whatnot. It looked really good. And elements of it are good, but man, these boss fights are just absolutely killing me. I'm literally on the final boss fight. There are 2 phases. Phase 1 is like, hey, just absolutely wail on him. Phase 2 is like, hey, by the way, he's going to absolutely whoop you this time. And he's just going to like do everything twice as fast. So I'm trying to get through that right now, but hopefully I can finish that after the show and then move on to something that I'll enjoy a little bit more, but I'm glad that it's almost done.
Yeah, I know we talked about it when it came out a few months ago, and I did not enjoy my time with that. Like the few hours I put into, and I'm not a Souls guy like you. Like you played many more Souls games than I have. I think the only one I've played through completion is Remnant 2, and like that. I guess it's a Souls game. Like you have guns though, so kind of cheating there. I just could not get into it. Like it felt clunky to me. That I thought there were some good ideas in Flintlock, but it just never really came together. I feel like if they had, it's probably a budget issue, but if they had another year and time to like polish it, I think there could have been something really good there.
Yeah, I think that I like the way that they don't rely on the gun mechanic. Like the gun mechanic is also it's almost like a parry almost, where it's like you interrupt the action that's happening. And like you said, I like the elements they have here. I don't know they all fit together very well. And then another thing with this one is that I also feel like it kind of struggles with the same issues that Immortals of Avium had, where it's like you're dumping me into this world filled with lore that you haven't earned my attention through yet. Like there's way too much depth to this for what it is coming into it as somebody who's not familiar with any of this at all, because no one was. But I say that, how do you introduce someone to something whenever you have so many ideas for the world? Like it's difficult to onboard somebody into this giant lore dump in a way that doesn't make it feel overwhelming, and it all just kind of ends up washing over me. Like I don't even want to say forgettable, but predictable is probably the right word for the story. It's just like, again, it's a blah, there it is, enjoy it for what it is kind of experience for me so far.
I see Nissa in the chat saying Flintlock is awesome. I know this resonated with the people. I remember talking about it with others and they were really enjoying it. So if you liked it, that's awesome. I'm sad it didn't click for me. And then there's another comment of hers I wanted to bring up.
Go for it.
Says go to Geek Squad. They mostly fix everything.
Oh, let me tell you. No, but by the time that listen, you are correctness in that if I had gone to Geek Squad at the front end of like, hey, I smacked my controller and it's rattling. Eventually, maybe. I mean, you've had bad experiences, but they might have been able to fix it after I ran through it with super glue and just absolutely devastated it. I'd be embarrassed, quite frankly, to go into a Best Buy and be like, "Hi, I did this. I'm so sorry."
Yes. So little story time for me. All right, because as everyone knows, my Xbox broke over a few months ago. I got a new one now, but when it broke, and I was like, oh, it must be the power supply. And then I Google it. It says Best Buy Geek Squad can fix that. I take it in there. I wait over an hour, even though I had an appointment. Another thing, if I schedule an appointment, you make me wait an hour. What's the point of the appointment?
True.
But I wait. The guy comes up. He goes, "Did you try turning it on?" I'm like, "Brother, it's unplugged." And he's like, "You try changing the cord?" I'm like, "Yes." And he's like, "Oh, well, we don't fix things here." I'm like, "What are you talking about? That's your whole thing. Your Geek Squad, you fix things." He's like, "Not really." And he's like maybe some computer stuff, but mainly just help people get into their emails that they lock. And I was like, this makes a lot of sense because 90% of the people standing here are elderly and they can't get into emails. So my Best Buy does not fix things. They basically told me, "You're out of luck. Goodbye."
Yeah, you'll have that occasionally. I've never taken anything to Best Buy to get fixed, but nonetheless, my controllers were beyond repair. But to your point about Flintlock, though, there are things to love. I get how people would think that it's an awesome game. It's one that's just like not. I think after having played other games that are very similar in this vein and in this level, like I think the Lords of the Fallen is a different game compared to Flintlock. But since they're both kind of in that Souls-like vein, I think they did it better. But yeah, it's fine. It's a Game Pass game that I'm glad that I'm playing through Game Pass. I enjoy that fact that I can experiment with this, play with this, and not have to sink additional money into it outside of my subscription. I love popping achievements. So yeah, that's what I've been playing, and I'm excited to get back into VR once I get my replacement left controller and reset those boundaries
as they
immediately.
put the borders up.
Yeah, I'm gonna put the borders back up immediately and protect those things with my life. But enough about me. What have you been playing? Because you've got a once again laundry list of variety here.
Yeah, I've been jumping around this week. I'm kind of in this weird period where I'm not sure like what to play. I'm waiting for Tales of Grace's F remastered comes out next week, so that's like just kind of killing time trying to find like short games I can roll credits on until then. Um, I have beaten Dark Sector, a game I talked about last week. I know I started it. It's a 360 2008 game or whatever. Horrible game. Just truly terrible, especially towards the end. It completely just falls apart with some of the boss mechanics, the levels, the level design at the end is truly horrific. I I didn't. I'm like, why did I play this? I could have done something else with the 7 hours I spent with this game. But yeah, don't play Dark Sector. It has some cool ideas, but man, they needed way more money to make this game good.
We're really bringing the positive vibes tonight, where we're just
Yeah.
absolutely dumping on games that we're playing right now, which is not. I don't intend to be that way, but sometimes that's just how it is. I don't know what to tell you.
My game came out 17 years ago, so I'm allowed some
Fair,
shots, you know.
fair.
Uh, Another game, I'm still playing Phasmophobia with my group of friends. I still really enjoy this game. We're unlocking harder difficulties where you get no setup time. It's just going to this haunted house, and then the ghosts are like, "Yo, we're gonna immediately start messing with you, and we're gonna kill you." And
Mm-hmm.
it's just a great time. So I don't really have much more to say about that. But if you're looking for spooky vibes with the homies, I highly recommend Phasmophobia.
Very cool.
Melty Blood type Lumina. I played this specifically because last week we were talking about like fighting games, and I was like, I haven't actually played a fighting game in a while. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
what fighting game do I have easy access to? I saw this was on PS Plus. I hadn't used my PS Plus subscription, and God knows how long, probably since the Plucky Squire came out. So I downloaded this. I played a few hours of it, and I will say that it's okay.
Okay.
It feels very auto combo-y, and I think that's by design. So like what I didn't know is that Melty Blood is like a spin-off of a visual novel series. So they just take characters from this like romance novel and then made them like fight each other. I have no idea why. I
Yeah,
think
it's
the
everything from
pixel art.
Type Moon, right?
Yeah, well, I don't know what that is though.
Ah, you think I know? I just read the Steam page, dude. Oh yeah, I had you going though, didn't I?
I was like,
You thought
yo,
that I was up on it.
yo, I was like, what?
Yeah,
So
no,
imagine
absolutely not. I have no idea what these anime people are doing. I don't know what's going on here.
imagine if this is the one thing you were tuned into.
I
Like,
have like a super deep obsession with this one niche thing. Yeah, no,
mhm.
absolutely not.
Yeah, I would describe it as kind of oh, Ghost of Guides. Yes, you do. Type Moon's the Fate universe. I didn't know that. I do know.
I still don't
I
know what's
know what
going on.
Fate is. I've seen Fate Zero and Fate Unlimited Blade. Where those are animes, and I know those are visual novels. I did not know Type Moon. That explains why Saber is in this game because they're from Fate Stay Night, and I just thought it was a weird crossover. But that explains a lot. Um, it's just kind of auto combi, like mash buttons. Everything looks really cool. It's just not very like technically deep or I don't know. The story, there's no story. Like there is a story, but it is very much like the one storyline I did was I'm gonna go around town with my boyfriend today, and then just these random people showed up. I was like, I'm gonna kill your boyfriend, and that was it. And it turns out you're a vampire. I was like, this is just Twilight. Like this is anime Twilight going on. So I don't know if I'll play much more of that. I got like half the trophies. I'm like, I think I'm good. I think I've satisfied. I played through a few people's stories. I'm good.
Understandable. I feel like we should respect the amount of variety that we have whenever we talk about the what you playing section every week, because it's just like, it's like the golden corral of video game topics, where it's like, you want a chocolate wonderfall? Yeah. You want steak? Absolutely. Whatever you want, we got a
All
little
the
bit of it.
rolls. The Golden Corral had killer rolls.
It did have killer rolls. I'm trying to think of what was really good at Golden Corral. I don't know. Back in the day, it was like whatever I had in front of me. So everything there was great. It's fantastic. Fat kid, it's great.
Last game I want to talk about was gifted to me from Silkenit, who's in the chat, one of our lovely community members. Pseudo Regalia. This is a 3D platforming Metroidvania. What I like about this game is it's in the style of like an N64 game. So it looks really cool, like very striking visually. I like the main character is a rabbit, so I'm all about that because I like to play as animals in my platformers. I played, I want to say 3 hours so far. I'm enjoying my time with it. I'm just very lost. So the game doesn't really give you many directions. It's kind of just like go explore these different areas, uncover secrets, and then you'll eventually find like a power up, and you should hopefully remember, like, oh, I remember this section in this other part of the map. Go do that now, explore more in that area. So I'm slowly getting through it. I have a bunch of power-ups. I do feel like I've hit a wall because I feel like I've gone everywhere I can go at the moment.
Mm.
Um, but it has some also awesome traversal mechanics, like just very creative ways to move around. Like instead of a double jump, you have this like power slide jump, so you'll slide and then do a longer one. You have your wall jumps. You have you can combo that into something like a backflip midair. So I'm reaching places I definitely should not be at this point in the game, just because I'll sit there and be like, how can I break the physics of this game? And that's what I do enjoy about it. Like it is very it's easy to break. So I'm enjoying that. I just need to know where the hell to go.
Yeah, it looks really interesting. I always look up the games you talk about on Steam, and this is one that it's almost like, and this is not meant to be a comparison of gameplay, but it kind of reminds me of the way that Dusk was handled, where it's got that like very boomer shooter feel to it, but clearly some modernizations to make it work the way that it's intended. But it definitely looks like a nostalgia inspired game across the board. Reviews are crazy good, overwhelmingly positive
Yes.
for recent and new. So this might be, I think I'll add this to my wish list as well.
Yeah. It's very positive. I went to the subreddit because I was surprised there was a subreddit. First of all, most Steam indie games do not have a subreddit, but I guess the guy's already making his next game, some like electrokinetic or something. I don't know, but
Hmm.
I'm interested to see where this game goes if I can manage to beat it, because I'm really trying not to use a guide. Like I want to be able to figure it out, but we'll see how much longer I go before I just dip into like, all right, where do I get this power? You know?
Yeah. I feel like I give myself like 10 minutes, honestly. I poke around for 10 minutes and then like life's too short, man. You know, we're burning daylight here. I got to get going. Depending on the game and
I
like the
say
issue I'm facing.
you
Yeah.
should have seen me playing Control, because I spent way too. I was like going every floor. I'm like, where the hell am I supposed to go in this game? Like, how do I get to this part of the map? Because Control had a horrible, horrible map. I don't know if you have played Control.
No, you remember you
Oh
flame me for this every time. Yeah.
yes, yeah, play it,
Yeah.
but the map is bad.
Okay. Good to know.
And that's it. That's what I've been playing. So why don't we jump into our crazy news section? Because
I'm ready, man.
this week was hectic, and especially today when more breaking stories came. So,
Mhm.
story number one, which is actually two stories, I combined them. I had them separated, but I named it "Everything Really Is an Xbox." So the first part of this, Microsoft commits to handheld gaming. Jason Ronald, Microsoft's VP of Next Generation, was a panelist at an AMD and Lenovo event this week called The Future of Gaming Handhelds. While the event was primarily focused on Lenovo's new Legion Go S, he did comment on Microsoft's future plans on stage and after in an interview with The Verge, stating, quote, "We've been really innovating for a long time in the console space, and as we partner across the industry is really about how do we bring these innovations that we've incubated and developed in the console space and bring them to PC and bring them to the handheld gaming space." Telling The Verge we could see changes as early as this year. Jason Ronald says he is aware of the current experience with handheld Windows handheld, saying, quote, "We're focused on really simplifying that and making it a much more like a console experience. Our goal is to put the player and their library at the center of the experience and not all the Windows work that you have to do today." This comes on the heels of Steam announcing a Lenovo Legion Go S Steam OS version, and that Steam OS will be available for download on other gaming handhelds, putting pressure on Microsoft. All right, we're going to stop there for now because I think there's a lot to take in there. Seems Jason Ronald is very much hinting that some sort of Xbox, I don't know if it's an operating system or it's an update to their current stuff, is coming to improve the handheld experience.
Yeah, that's super exciting. And I think that it's something that the emerging handheld space requires because you see SteamOS opening up and you see it going to other devices. And I think that another big element here is that SteamOS is going to be able to be available in, I think, a beta form later this month where you can just like sideload it effectively the same way you can an Android launcher if you have the capability to do that. And I think that is super exciting. I question what this actually means in action because this can mean a whole variety of things. I tend to process this less as Xbox OS is coming to handheld gaming devices and we are making Steam Big Picture Mode Xbox version. That's the way that I'm reading this. I'm curious as to what that means for the Windows level, because he also mentions like, you know, the Windows experience, the issues that you have with that. Is there like a big picture mode equivalent? And I'm using that because that's the simplest way that I understand what's happening. Um, is there a big picture mode equivalent for Windows 11 where you can say, oh, this guy's on whatever he's on. Let's make this to where it's much more functional. Whenever you tap something, everything does what it needs to do. But as SteamOS evolves, as all of these competitors come on the scene, as the Nintendo Switch 2 sets up for an imminent reveal, like handheld is going to be where people's eyes are at. And if you don't have it buttoned up in a way that you need to have it buttoned up, it's going to effectively be like Xbox launching with a broken dashboard. Like that's what you're looking at right here. So it is more important now than it's ever been since the Steam Deck launched for Windows and Xbox to really get their stuff together and deliver a comprehensive gaming experience in a handheld format if they really want to compete in the next 5 years of this kind of arms race we've got going on right now.
You know what really cemented my belief that Xbox needs to step up their handheld initiative was watching Luke's review of his Steam Deck over on the XEP, the Xbox Expansion Pass channel. Because when I was looking at him navigating the Steam OS, I'm like, it's so simple. Like it's just it's straightforward. Like here's your games, click them, play them. It very much has that console feel where I love my ROG Ally. I love the fact that I have access to every gaming library that works on a PC. Like that is the primary reason I went with it. However, I think when I got my dock, I talked about this on the show, right? Like the fact that I couldn't just connect an Xbox controller via Bluetooth and navigate my Ally in Windows mode was frustrating. The fact I had to spend $2.99 on that controller companion Steam app, and then like that's how I navigate now, which is great. It's like an awesome thing. Like I recommend everyone that has a handheld that wants to use an external controller gets. But like I shouldn't have to do that. Windows is made by Microsoft. Like there should be a way to navigate it with a controller. So I don't know whether it's just improvements to Windows, like a specific Windows handheld mobile version, where they want to call it, or my hope is something like an Xbox OS where you can, I don't know if you side load it or it launches from the app or however they're going to do it, right? Like I want something like that, but I don't want to lose the functionality of those other storefronts. So I don't know if Xbox can figure out a way, like we have the Armory Crate, Play Night, like you can load the Xbox OS, we'll recognize other storefronts, put them all in one place for you. Like that would be amazing. Also, the ability to play Xbox console games on this, whether that is something that is in the cards, I have no idea. But this very much feels to me like they want to figure it out before they launch any sort of their own handheld. Because if they release this thing and nobody's interested, nobody's using it, then what do they really need to make their own handheld for?
Yeah, well, I also think about the mobile store and the way that you just explained it in that capacity. Couple of things. I definitely think that they need to focus on the handheld PC experience first, because that's where your core users are going to come from at first compared to releasing an Xbox handheld. At least in my opinion. And then if they were to try to emulate or create a new version of the Xbox OS that would work with other storefronts, I mean, I think you don't have to look any further than the backbone approach, plugging in a backbone to your mobile phone. They have an application that's designed to say, hey, here's what's in Xbox Cloud Gaming right now. Hey, here's what's popping on the Apple App Store. Here's what you've got over on whatever service, PlayStation Now or whatever they're calling it now. It kind of pulls together all of these things that you log into, you connect your accounts. It's kind of like GeForce Now, where you pull in your games and you can play it wherever you want. And I think that is the way that it could be done if they were to effectively, implement that. But I'm sure that requires some on the back end, but it's already been done by, again, Backbone, Razer, GeForce Now, I think is probably the best example, at least in the cloud gaming side of things. But does that still work in the same way remote or natively on the device itself, TBD. But they definitely have examples already of like how it should and could be done for sure.
Now, am I remembering correctly? So the Lenovo Legion Go is what kind of kicked this whole thing off, the S version, right? They have the Steam version and they have the Windows version. Am I remembering that the Windows version is more expensive?
Yeah, so the Steam one, there are different models, and I read this like in passing on the train, so correct us in the chat, and we can look it up after the fact if I'm wrong. But I believe there are, I want to say 3 different tiers of this. There is a Steam version and a Windows version on the low end. And then if you want to upgrade to the high end with more RAM and storage, that's just Windows. So the Steam one is
Okay.
just restricted to the lower spec model. That's my understanding. But considering Steam is releasing Steam OS in, download and load it on capacity, maybe you could just put it on if you want it, and it's not really that big of a deal. That's the way that I'm looking at it.
Well, I am very interested, like, I don't wanna get rid of I don't know how side loading things work, so I'd have to look into all this, right? Like, I'm not a very technical
Yeah.
person, but, like, if I could somehow if you can have the Steam OS and keep my Windows on my Ally, like, that would be cool to mess around with just so I could have that comparison.
Yeah, I mean, I think it ultimately comes down to, for each individual person, the out of the box experience needs to be something where I don't have to think about that. But it also needs to be able to do that if I were to be someone that wants to go do that. Like in my old company I used to work with, you had your super in-depth IT guys that were like tinkering around with code, and they would open up command prompt and like run stuff out of memory.
Okay.
And I'm like, what are you even doing over there? But they need the device just as much as you have somebody like you and I, where it's like the reason I chose a Steam Deck over a ROG Ally is because I didn't want to deal with the whole figuring out how to navigate Windows 11 on a screen the size of an iPad mini. Like I just didn't want to do that. And the Steam Deck delivers that in a really, really impressive way at the cost of being locked down to Steam. So kind of, you can do other things around it and you can load Windows on it if you want to be technical, but, yeah, they got to be able to cater to both of those, and hopefully side loading a different OS would be something that would work in that capacity.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what this is. Like I'm rooting for an Xbox OS that I can just like download and have everything on my Ally, because I think that would be awesome. But whether it's just improvements to their PC storefront, right? Because like I don't hate the Xbox app nearly as much as everyone else seems to. Like everyone craps on that. I'm like, it works just fine for me. Like I don't know what the issue is, but like I can see room for improvement in the app.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing that I will say, giving the Xbox app kudos, is that I was playing around with the Razer Cortex because they announced remote streaming or remote play on PC at CES. You can download the Razer Cortex app connected to your PC, and you can stream your PC to your phone.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, it's like a remote play level, like a PlayStation Portal pre-cloud gaming thing, where it's like you just connect to your PC on the same network, and it's super low latency, super high quality, looks really good. But the issue that I ran into is like navigating my desktop, and it doesn't have the capability to like immediately pop open a typing like a keyboard whenever I click on something. It's just stuff like that the remote play kind of falls flat on. But the Xbox app, when I got into it, I'm clicking around with an Xbox controller style thing. It's fine. The UI is good for what it is and what it needs to do. So I think they've done well, but they do just need those improvements at the basic level for the Windows side of things to make it really run the way that it needs to be running.
Yeah, again, controller companion, Sam. It'll sort you right out.
See, I'm not there. I'm not there yet,
Okay.
but we'll see if I get there one day.
Well, it wasn't the only news coming out of CES this week, because Xbox also announced that they're bringing Xbox Cloud Gaming to the new LG smart TVs later this year. Xbox has already implemented cloud gaming through Samsung TVs and Amazon Fire Sticks, but now we see them taking it to another level. I have an LG OLED behind me. I don't know if my TV is new enough to get this app. I will definitely like keep an eye out, but this is like LG is kind of like the gamer TV, right? Like I was very surprised that this wasn't the first brand that they tried to do this with, because especially with PS5 and Xbox Series X, like when people talk about, oh, what TV should I get? The LG OLEDs are what everyone recommends. So I'm glad they're finally doing this. Hopefully it's not too long, and like just get it everywhere. Like get them on Roku TVs. Like what's the hold up here?
Yeah, I think it's interesting to see the approach, and I'm curious what the reasoning is behind the order they're going in, because it was Samsung before, right? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes,
So,
yes.
like maybe Samsung was just the most receptive, or I know they've done collaborations in the past, like with the cloud gaming side of things and other examples of Xbox activities. I know Samsung's been involved in campaigns over the years. But going over to LG, you bring up that being kind of the gaming center. I would argue that anybody that's gaming on an LG TV already has a Series X console, probably with a gaming PC. Like if you have the, whatever the CG not, the fancy ones that everybody always talks about, I feel like those people are already locked in. I would say the smarter move in the long run would be, like you were saying, go for the Roku, go for the TCL, go for like those low end things that are still able to deliver a quality experience, because that's where you're getting the casuals that are like, scrolling through. Maybe they got done with Secret Level and they're like, man, I'd love to be able to play insert game here except for Concord. And then, they just finished Secret Level and they're looking for a game to play. And then they're like, I can play Xbox on my TV. That's sick. So I think whenever you hit that low spec TV, that's when you really start to see the impact of what they're trying to do kind of take off in a big way. I'm curious what the user numbers are on the TV side to date. Like if that's actually doing something that's moving the needle in any kind of big capacity.
Yeah, I'm not sure because you need there's some free to play games you can stream through cloud, right? Like that gets you Fortnite and maybe a few others. I don't really remember, but in terms of like streaming Game Pass, you got to sign up for that $20 a month tier. And I don't know how much these apps on TVs, Fire Sticks is really incentivizing people to do that. It's cheaper than a console, but how many people are like looking for that when they're thinking Fire Stick? Oh, I can play Game Pass, it's an interesting marketing strategy for sure. I just think of I know my future brother and sister-in-law, they have a giant LG in their living room and they have one downstairs too. And the kids and them, they just play PlayStation 5, PlayStation 3, they still have. So they still have those things hooked up. But if they're not gonna get an Xbox. But if I could come over and be like, oh, there's an Xbox app right there, maybe try to just put it in their house. Like, oh, you love Minecraft. Well, here's you want some more Minecraft.
Yeah.
It's just something I think about, like how the possibilities with those TVs. But I have a TCL Roku downstairs. It'd be cool if my fiance wants to play something, but she just wants to be down there chilling on the couch. Just boot up the app.
Yeah, I am curious how power intensive it really is behind the scenes, because I don't know how your TCL is, but I bought mine. I bought mine in the middle of COVID with the stimulus money or whatever that came out, because I really needed a new TV and I just got my own place, and so I bought like a 65-inch TCL, which back then even was like $1,200. Now it's like $300. Like it's not a great television. But man, I'm like scrolling through the UI and it's just struggling to process what's happening. So I think the time nears for a replacement once I move out eventually of this apartment. I definitely need to upgrade, but it's still getting the job done. I'm just curious if it could even I'd probably connect a Bluetooth controller to this thing and it would just start smoking. I just don't even know it would know what to do with that. Crazy.
Yeah, there might be some limitations from the operating systems. They might be like, oh, LG is functional.
Yeah. Like TCL is held together by bubblegum and a pair of toothpicks, and then LG actually has some meat behind it. So
they're saving TCL Rokus for when they launch their cloud only tier where you will stream 480p to your Roku TV.
I mean, to be fair though, they've launched Amazon Fire Sticks, so that is not that much beefier than what a Roku might deliver. Of course, we're talking about 2021 Roku technologies. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But cool to see them continuing to expand.
Yes. All right. Well, handhelds and more clouds on TV. Look forward to that. Why don't we jump into story number 2, because a developer direct has been announced. And Sam, I don't remember when I know I predicted the date 2 weeks ago. I said, I think the developer direct will be this date. I think I said the 22nd, but yeah, I can't remember. I'm I feel like I almost nailed this. Anyway, Xbox announced their annual developer direct today, and it's going to be held Thursday, January 23rd at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So we can wrap it up for you on the show later that evening, bringing fans a look into a selection of highly anticipated games coming to Xbox Series consoles, PC, and Game Pass later this year. The Direct will focus on 4 games, according to them. id Software's Doom: The Dark Ages, Compulsion: South of Midnight, Sandfall Interactive's Claire Obscure Expedition 33, and and they'll go to a surprise location to see another studio's brand new game. Sam, we got a few questions about this. So Ghostly Guys wrote in, now that Develop Direct has been announced, do you think this is the time we get more firm release dates?
I mean, I think all of these are very predictable release dates, because it feels like Doom is kind of like, you got that locked. I mean, it feels like they announce when they're ready, and it's always felt like a summer 2025 game. I feel like it's still going to be a summer 2025 game. South of Midnight, I could see that being May, June, something like that. Claire Obscure, weird one to have in this developer direct, and we can talk more about that. But I also feel like that's been announced long enough to where it feels like they probably have a release date locked in. So, I mean, the blog did say these are things that are coming in 2025. However, that means nothing right now. No one knows what's coming when. That's just a made up, just what's the Matthew McConaughey thing of like fairy dust, from the Wolf of Wall Street. So I have no worries about any of these getting bumped or like getting pushed out, but I do think we get firm release dates. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, no, I think we definitely get release dates for all three of these. Maybe the fourth one, depending on what it is. It's supposed to be coming this year. We'll see if they're ready to give us an actual date, because I imagine that one might be the furthest off. But like Dark Ages feels like a lock. I feel like it is pretty confident, and they tend to nail their releases, right? Like they're not a studio you have to worry about. South of Midnight, I feel like every time I go on social media, I'm seeing a new clip that Compulsion has shared, and like the game looks really good. I'm like, you got to be close to being done. I would not be surprised if South of Midnight came out like in the spring, like just a few months away. That feels like that kind of release to me. And then Expedition 33, I almost kind of get the same vibe where like I was not expecting this to almost the end of the year, but this might be further along than I think anyone really anticipated. And it's awesome to see Xbox really backing a third party on like I know they have the Game Pass deal. Silkenit had this. I'm happy to see more Claire Obscura. Do you think that now that's now part of the format to have a somewhat big third party partner at these developers directs? And I think it is. I think last year we had Square Enix with Visions of Mana, right? And that wasn't a Game Pass game, but they had the other Mana games come to Game Pass. They promoted that. They had the marketing. They're doing the same with Expedition 33. I'm pretty confident in that one. It seems Xbox is really backing it. It's not a full price title. It's a $50 game. It's got a lot of hype around it. So I'm excited to see more.
Yeah, I'm going back to look at the trailer right now just to remind myself of what this gameplay looks like, because I knew this was one that like it piqued my interest, but I wasn't sure if it would be something that I'm into. And I remember wanting to try it. Now I remember why. This game's gorgeous.
Yeah,
it's a very good looking game. I do think that's the approach. And what I love about the developer directs is that while, yes, this is effectively like a mini E3 moment for the Xbox community, if you want to call it that, this is also an opportunity to spotlight devs and let them tell their stories and like let them talk about it. And so I think there is a lot of value in Xbox going out and saying, hey, here's our first party. Here's what a couple of our teams are working on. However, we also are a platform. Here's what other developers are working on. We give them our platform to talk about it. It strengthens their appearance as a platform that cares about third parties and that doesn't hold back ports because of the Xbox Series S. Like it combats that, like, we're hard to work with narrative. If there is one that's out there floating around at any given time, they come and go depending on what developers talking about what, like the Black Myth Wukong devs talking about the Series S on the.
I can't even be bothered anymore.
Yeah, but like if there is a negative news cycle out there, this kind of combats that and says, hey, we love working with people. And so I think also like the example of the Stalker 2 developer documentary, like that's another example of them being very nurturing to the perception of developers and studios that they might not own, but that they have an interest in supporting. So yeah, I think this is probably the move going forward. And I think I almost look at this like a very corporate marketing driven no clip of like, hey, who has a good story to tell right now? Let's send out a crew and then let them tell their story. And I like that kind of approach.
I feel like Xbox has in recent years has really figured out their showcase format. Like Developers Direct, both of them so far have been very good, very well received. Their showcases have been nailing it lately. And then like they got rid of that weird ID at Xbox where it was like 4 hours with a bunch of Twitch streamers talking. Like we don't need that. Like you have those little Twitch mini partner showcases, like the last one that we got FBC Firebreak and the Alan Wake DLC. So like they're kind of coming in their stride with these showcases and marketing beats now. That said, are you surprised Fable isn't here?
I think I'm not surprised that Fable isn't here. I think I'm more so concerned about its release in 2025. I do think that, we went back to talking about last week how there's kind of this pending Goliath of GTA 6. I do think that when it comes to marketing and discussion, Fable is a game that needs to be able to kind of stand on its own and like be able to dominate the cycle, because the old school fans are going to be talking about it kind of in a way that like Dragon Age the Veilguard got discussion because that was one of the biggest games that was coming out around that window. If Fable falls into the same window as Grand Theft Auto 6, GTA 6 is going to completely obliterate any social conversation about Fable. Like, that's just the way that it is. People that are Fable fans and Xbox fans will talk about it. The larger zeitgeist will not. So maybe that's what their approach is here. But that's also a much bigger kind of like mainline game for Xbox. So maybe they're saving that for the big Summer Game Fest stuff where they actually have like a big pillar that they can stand on instead of something that's smaller. However, Doom is here. So I don't know. That's also strange. That's crazy.
I'm until they give me a firm date, I'm operating under the assumption Grand Theft Auto 6 is not coming out this year. I just have no faith that they're actually going to stick to that. It feels very Rockstar to be like, yeah, we need a little bit longer. For me, I'm not overly concerned Fable isn't here because I've always thought Fable was going to be the double feature this year at the Xbox Summer Showcase.
I could see that.
Starfield, Call of Duty. I feel like Fable's going to get it this year.
Yeah, I think that I hope that Fable is the one that they spotlight, and I hope that Xbox doesn't just make it the, hey, here's the Xbox and Call of Duty annual showcase. No. But I could also easily see them doing that. So I don't know if that's what they'll end up doing again or not. But I would like to see them let other games breathe a little bit. And Fable's a big one for them. It's not. I have to remind myself how big it is because it's not that big for me. You know, like I get the significance of it, but I forget that this is truly a Goliath that like old school Xbox fans are looking forward to. So maybe that'll get the showcase.
Well, Terabo has the final question regarding the developer direct. He says, "What's the surprise game?" ?
Yeah, I know. I was listening to Kind of Funny on the way home, and I like the idea of Double Fine being the ones presenting.
Exactly mine. I said I teased that. Sam Heaney was like, oh, "Who is it?" And I was like, "Well, if you really put your mind to it, I think you could figure it out." I was like trying to Psychonauts.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be Double Fine because I believe Tim Schafer's been on a developer direct before, right? And whenever they were talking about something, or maybe I'm thinking about like Day of the Devs or one of the other activations they've had, but they wheel Tim out to talk about stuff in a nice, passionate, developer-friendly way. And so I think that that's probably what it's going to be. I do find Aaron Greenberg's comments of this is like an unannounced game to be super interesting. That's one thing that I kind of am, I don't even want to say wary of, but I'm more so like, can we just get updates on the stuff that we know exists? But if it's a smaller game that's just dropping out of nowhere or one that's going to land in a couple of months, you know, maybe that'll be something that's kind of like the standout, you know, oh, look, a new thing for 2025. But do you have any ideas of what it could be if it were to be Double Fine?
Well, the rumor Double Fine was the rumor was last year that Double Fine was working on a game called Kiln, which was like a PvP
I remember this,
game. Yeah, it was like you were like clay pots or something. I don't know. It was supposed to be like that was their next project. I don't know how accurate that is. That was the rumor. And then they've been kind of talking on social media lately. They're like, "Hey, we'll see you soon," right?
Yeah.
But they also said we're done with Twitter until we have business announcements.
Fantastic. I think that'll probably be them. And then I also think about these things, and it's funny to like, you know, these conversations are fun to have in the moment, but I also like looking back on years past, and it's like, you remember how hyped we were for Towerborn? You just want to take a moment to like step back.
I was very excited for Towerborn.
Isn't that interesting just to think about like the previous like perceptions of years past? Because obviously the game's in early access, it'll launch eventually, but it's like, that was such a pillar of like conversation in 2022 and 2023 that it's just odd to see it like, yeah, it kind of launched, but it also kind of didn't. We'll get it when we get it, and then I just don't feel like there's going to be any kind of conversation around it. No, but it's just
I think they ruined the Towerborn hype by putting it in early access personally and giving it to Steam before Xbox when it was announced at the Xbox show. It just
very odd. Yeah, especially when we have the game preview program, and like I get it, you're still developing for Xbox, but if you announced it in an Xbox show, it would have made sense to do it in that way. I would also argue, and this is a hot take, that Hades 2 probably suffered a little bit because it launched in early access. Like it felt like that launched. I know it got nominated for like early access game of the year or whatever that award was, but it's like just feels like it would have been great to just have like a, hey, here's Hades 2. And I know we're fine tuning and tweaking and whatnot, but it just feels like there's kind of like I don't know. It's like just a weird like preview of what it's going to be. And then it loses the hype a little bit, I guess.
I feel that way with a lot of early access games over the last year, like No Rest for the Wicked, right? I feel like that came and everyone was really excited, like, oh, Moon Studios next game. And then Like, oh yeah, it's okay. And
Yeah,
then nobody talks about
it's super interesting, and I mean, like, I guess you could go back to like the Indiana Jones argument of like it was big on Xbox when it launched. It'll get a second win on PS5. Like, there's that kind of element to it as well. But it definitely makes it a little bit less of like a crescendo moment whenever the game finally does hit full launch. But that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens in 2 weeks at the developer direct. I'm excited for it. No live reacts because I'll be at work at 1 p.m. Eastern time. What a
Same.
dumb time. What a dumb time to do it.
I hate these whenever they do 1 p.m. And like, you know, I try to get home. I try to be able to watch it. Maybe I'll throw in an earbud while I'm at work, but it's like, you know, what are we doing here? Why are we in the middle of the day?
Yeah.
I feel like there's a balance between like 5-hour video game award shows and 1 hour presentations in the middle of the day that we've got to hit and in between here. Also, aren't these like scheduled on YouTube and just do the countdown thing?
Yeah.
Like, these aren't live events anymore. So how about we just like bump the time to 5 and call it a day? Just my
5 would be great.
opinion.
5
Be
would be
great. Be
perfect.
perfect.
All right, well, let's jump into story number 3. This is a rumor coming from the Ghost of Hope, who primarily leaks Call of Duty related items, stating that he has heard the next Xbox is coming in 2026 and is currently called Xbox Prime. Jez Corden of Windows Central took to Twitter to state there's no such thing, but this isn't the first time we've heard Xbox starting next gen early in 2026. Sam Heaney wrote in, says, is Xbox going early into next gen the right call? Whether it's 2026, this Prime console or not. The Switch 2 debuts this year. The next wave of PlayStation first party games are on the horizon, and major games like GTA 6 will have people yet to upgrade investing in a current gen console this year. Even with a lower priority focus on hardware sales, is the attempt at a 360 era head start the right move in today's market?
No, it's not.
Thank you. I thought I was going to be alone on this.
Yeah, no, God, no. Number one, Twitter rumors are so dumb. Like, I saw this floating around. I'm like, you really think with your whole mind, you, an evolved human being, they're going to call it Xbox Prime? What are you talking about, dude?
Like a transformer.
Yeah, you think it's a transformer, Optimus Prime? No, it's stupid. Beyond that, right now, if they were to try to get like a jump start on next generation, then not only like, I think it was different for the Xbox 360 and PS3 because the technology wasn't evolving at the pace that it's evolving today. Like, we had CES this week, obviously, where a lot of this news came from, and the 5080 series or 50 series of graphics cards is using DLSS 4, and that's like doubling the performance of everything that came out last year. Okay, take that, knock it back a couple of years to like translate to the console implementation of that. In 3 years from now, that technology they're going to bake into a console is going to be completely different than what would hit the market next year that they would have had to already start developing like 2 years ago. So like, you're going to release a product that's already inferior only to be totally outdone the following year. It's just like, you're not doing yourself any favor. And then the Switch is the exception because they're over in left field doing their own thing and just trying new ideas.
Yeah, they needed an upgrade.
Yeah, but no, I don't think they should do it. I don't think they will do it. I think they're going to already move plans around because we saw the leaks last year where we were supposed to get a Mac Pro trash can looking console, and that just totally canned. And then the rumors were that the Sebel controller got pushed to be the next gen launch controller. So it's like, when they're doing those moves, you know, they're reading the tea leaves and they're moving stuff around the way that it needs to be shifted. So no, they're not doing that.
Yeah, those documents said 2027, 2028 for next gen. I think that's where PlayStation's also aiming, says PS5 Pro just came out the end of last year, right? And then 4 more years, probably PS6. I think that timeline makes a lot more sense. I just don't understand the incentive for Xbox to release. Like, you're not buying the current one. What if we offer you a more expensive, more powerful one? Like, that isn't what drives consumers right now. Like, and I think they know that. So like, the rumors don't really make sense. I think the name Xbox Prime would be stupid because like, when I hear Prime, I think, oh, another one. That's what we need. a third Xbox, where people get confused. No, I think Xbox goes 2027 earliest, and maybe we see like a handheld along with a traditional hardware, whether that's from Microsoft at that point. Like, I don't know how the future of Xbox hardware looks like. We'll have another console, but I don't think it's next year.
Yeah, I think the more that I see and watch the CES coverage, the more that I kind of almost want to say, just going off of the vibe entirely. Obviously, console not going anywhere. They've said that they're going to make another console. I think the handheld stuff, they just lean into the partners. I really think that you have like the same way that Steam is doing the Steam OS on the Legion Go S. I think that's where you get the like Legion Go X, and they just have the Xbox, whatever they
Legion
do.
Go X, yeah, let's
like
do
that.
it.
That just feels like something they would lean into and build a partnership with someone rather than have to set up manufacturing for this thing, get it running, test it, and like do a whole product launch around it. Unless they really want to go after the handheld market, which I just don't know that they really want to do. But PlayStation's doing it, so who knows? Yeah, it's going to be a weird couple of years here because technology is evolving at a pace that it's never really evolved before in the way that it is right now. So I'm excited to see how and if they're able to keep up.
I also need like a bigger upgrade. Like I need something, because the PS5 Pro, to me, I'm like, there's no reason for me to get that. Like,
Right.
so I need something substantial. Otherwise, I'm like, cross gen is gonna be a thing. Like, I guarantee you, whatever the next gen, like they're gonna play on the current system. So I need something substantial for me to upgrade day one this time.
Oh yeah, I mean it's got to be. I mean I'll be getting something on day one no matter what, because like that's just the way that I like. I just like getting a new console whenever they launch, and I'll save up for it and I'll get it on day one just to have it. But you know, to your point about like Xbox One X games versus Xbox Series X games, there wasn't really a reason to upgrade for a while because I mean the first 6 months of Series X since Halo Infinite got delayed, I played the Master Chief Collection. Now was it like 4K 60? Yeah, but like, could you? I mean, we're still talking about Halo 2. Like, there wasn't really a tangible reason for me to go all in. So yeah, I agree. They definitely need to have something, and I think that it's going to be really interesting to watch the Switch 2 based on the leaks that we've seen this week, because it really seems like it's iterative rather than revolutionary. Like it seems like it's the same kind of technology, the same idea, the same delivery system in terms of like layout and whatnot. And I'll be really interested to see if consumers respond to it in the same way they did with the Switch, because I don't think it's going to be able to like hit the sales. Like Switch is just an anomaly where it's just been a absolute powerhouse for almost a decade. And I think the Switch too, I mean, when you think about parents, they're going to look at it and be like, what's the difference? Like, what does it do differently? And I'll be interested to see what they say.
It's got a dumb name. Should have been Super Switch.
I agree.
Yeah, no, I feel the same. Like every Switch leak, I'm just like, okay, like
Yeah.
that's a Switch. Yep, like that's just been my feelings for weeks now. I was like, Nintendo, can you just show me like games, features?
Yeah.
Like, does this thing do anything besides like, oh, it's a more powerful Switch? Which is like, I want a more powerful Switch. That's great, but like, I also want some software. I want some features. I want something.
Yeah.
Right?
Also, when we talk about a more powerful Switch, what are we talking about? You know, like
a PS4.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a more powerful Switch. You're looking at still technology that's going to be basically, I would imagine, putting out graphics that are on the level of 2020 stuff. Like, I can't imagine this is going to be like, it's got to be late previous gen level graphics. I don't know. This isn't the Nintendo podcast, but technology's evolving. We'll see how everybody faces it, but it's going to get weird.
Yes, absolutely. Well, let's keep it rolling. Story number 4, we got the Game Pass update for the first half of January. And I labeled this in the description of this episode. Is this possibly the worst Game Pass drop in the history of Game Pass? Available right now, you can play Road 96 again on cloud, console, PC for all tiers. Lightyear Frontier, My Time at Sandrock, Robin Hood, Sherwood Builders, and Rolling Hills all come to the standard tier. January 14th, you got EA Sports UFC 5 on cloud and Xbox Series for Ultimate members, and you get Diablo on PC for Ultimate/PC Game Pass. You're telling me the first half of January, first 2025, you're setting the tone for Game Pass. They're like, all right, what if we give them a game that's already been on the system, 5 games into standard, a PC only game from 30 years ago, and then EA Sports US? What the hell is going on?
As a reminder, Lightyear Frontier was also in game preview on Game Pass as well. So that's another returning member of the party here. Yeah, it's not great. Also, as a side note, can we talk about how bad headlines have gotten in the past? Like, I know we've talked about it before, but like the clickbait headlines have gotten really bad, to the point that I saw somebody saying Diablo 4 now has competition on Xbox, the original Diablo, because like they were trying to like correlate these two things. You really think number one, just replace Pillars of Eternity instead of Diablo, and you actually have a headline and a conversation. But the whole like I don't know, it just leaves a weird taste in my mouth of like, you really like, man, is your arm hurt from that reach? But nonetheless, Diablo on PC is the only thing that marginally interests me here at all. I'm maybe speculating that there may be some surprise drops during the developer direct.
I hope so.
Maybe that could be potentially the thing that's is the solution here. But yeah, this isn't doing anything for me at all.
Yeah, no, I think I've made my thoughts pretty clear on this Game Pass drop. Listen, I've said it. Game Pass future is first party indie games. I've been saying it for ages. I know they have some third party deals for this year, like Wu Chang, Fallen Feathers, and Expedition 33, which are both I'm looking forward to. But I don't think that's going to be the norm throughout the year. Like, I expect a lot more of these kind of drops.
Yeah, for sure. And also Silken, it calls me out in the chat. Path of Exile. I said Pillars of Eternity, which is the avowed world that Oblivion has, or you guys know what I'm saying.
Avowed, yeah.
Obsidian, not Oblivion. They made or they didn't make Oblivion. They made Fallout. But Path of Exile is the Diablo competitor I was talking about. But yeah, I think that I think that this year on Game Pass, you're going to see a whole lot more of what we saw at the end of last year, where it's like, hey, your big quarter game is Black Ops 6. That's your game. And then you get the Indiana Jones drop in December. I think that like every 2 months, you're going to get something that's like really interesting. And the rest is going to be kind of like the mortar that holds the wall together. But I think you're going to be relying a whole lot more on the pillars rather than the little passive kind of things we get along the way.
All right, well, let's go to our last story for the evening. Assassin's Creed Shadows has been delayed again. Ubisoft announced today it was delaying Assassin's Creed Shadow for the second time, this time moving it from February 14th to March 20th. Ubisoft says the additional time will allow the team to better incorporate the player feedback gathered over the past 3 months and help create the best conditions for launch by continuing to engage closely with the increasingly positive Assassin's Creed community.
I mean, as we always say, delay the game as long as you need to. This is going to be a very, very interesting game, and I'm excited for it. I'm optimistic about it. Have you seen the gameplay, the updates they put out on the blogs? Because they've kind of been low key about it. Like they haven't been broadcasting it out there, which I think is wise because you're going to get flamed by the trolls online that are like wanting this game to fail. The gameplay looks very much so improved, like in a whole lot of ways. They've definitely added a level of polish that I think often holds Ubisoft back from really hitting their stride. Like if you had this extra amount of time, when you think about it, wasn't Shadow supposed to launch was it October of
November, I believe.
So like even if it launches in November, let's say that it launched in November, you've got, let's just call it all of November, December, January, February, March. That's 5 months. If you think about the current timeline of like Star Wars Outlaws, generally speaking, 5 months was about the amount of time that it took them to fix the fundamental issues a lot of people had with the game if they did have issues with the game. So it seems like they're just baking in the, hey, we're sorry, we'll fix it moments that populate the first 5 months of the game into the development rather than releasing it unfinished and then fixing it from there. So I hope that's what they're doing. And it seems like that's what they're doing. But I don't think a month delay is that big of a deal in general. Plus, it gets out of like the crowded February window, which I think is wise. So I'm really hoping for the best with it. I feel like I'm feeling good vibes around it. Much better than October of last year, as somebody who talks about it on a regular basis and reads the comments in my section on a regular basis. I'm feeling a little bit more optimistic, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think moving it is a completely fine choice. I think it gives it a better chance to succeed. A month is away from the big hitters. I am still worried about the game just because it seems like it's having a difficult time. Maybe it comes out and they nail everything, but like you have the Tencent rumored acquisition hanging their heads. You have Ease Gilmon being like, we just appointed strategic advisors to help us through. Like it really does seem like they're trying to stretch out the inevitable. Like they feel like they're in panic mode, and Assassin's Creed Shadow almost feels like it's being push it. So in case we need it as like leverage, like, oh, we got this game coming out, like bump our sale price up, right? Like that's kind of what it feels like to me. So we'll see what happens. I don't think it's going to be bad. I just don't know if it's going to be as good as Ubisoft needs it to be.
Yeah, I mean, I keep going back to what Sam Heaney, the second Sam of our squad, often brings up is like the moment the Ghost of Tsushima drops or the Ghost of Yotei drops, this game is gone, irrelevant from like public conversation, probably getting annihilated in like the TikTok if it's still around and YouTube Shorts and like Instagram Reels and stuff. Like the comparisons are going to be they just can't compete. And it's unfortunate to say that, but like Sucker Punch is just on delivering a totally different kind of level. So they need to get it out. Let it have its moment in the sun, because otherwise you're really going to be struggling whenever Ghost of Yotei drops and it's like the same vibe, the same look, and just 18,000 times better than this game potentially could be. I would love to be wrong. I would absolutely adore to be wrong. But I'm very hesitant on if that actually ends up being the case. So I'm optimistic. I'm an Assassin's Creed fan. Got the Assassin's Creed 3 statue back there. I'm absolutely in on day one. And again, we talked about it last week. Hopefully I would get a review code. Would love that if possible, but we'll see what happens with it. And it's going to be a weird year for Ubisoft with everything that they've got going on. I actually was talking to a friend offline earlier today. I think by May you get an acquisition announcement. Quite frankly, I really do think that like summer comes around, it feels like that's going to be it. I feel like this is it, the ball's in motion based on their recent comments, in my opinion.
Yep, for sure. Well, we have one question to round out the show, and then we'll tell everyone to go check out our friends over at Cast Co-op on the Season Gaming channel because they do awesome podcasts over there.
They do.
Taylor writes in, says, "Hear me out. Microsoft Truck Simulator. Let me introduce you and JamPackSam into the world of truck sims. What would it take for me to convince you guys to play?" I need to tell you because you weren't there on for our Game of the Year discussion.
Okay.
The man is obsessed with Euro Truck Simulator. It's all he's talking about, and this is leave your psychosis out of our show.
I feel like so my experience with these games. Have you ever heard of Nerd Cubed? Do you remember this YouTuber from like way back in the day?
No, I don't. I'm not familiar.
Okay, so Nerd Cubed used to do like random simulator stuff. He was like the first person that I think I saw playing Lawnmower Simulator and stuff, and he would do Euro Truck Simulator. He was super funny back whenever I was watching him in high school and stuff. And that's my really only experience. This also correlates with, I think that it's Rick Davis, who's like obsessed with Mud Runner or the like expeditions games where it's like a super realistic dig your wheels in the mud kind of thing. I think one of them was on Game Pass. I have zero interest in any of these things.
Same.
Yeah, if I wanted to drive a bus, I'd go be a bus driver. Like I don't want to do these things. I do like the mud thing though. I like Dirt 5, the mud physics in Dirt 5. Really enjoy that. So combine that with a little bit of like burning out in a dump truck in a mud field. Maybe you could get me to play for 10 minutes. I don't know.
I heard trading card game shop simulator or whatever it is where you run your own trading card shop. That's like the only one that's ever sounded interesting to me.
It does. I would like a game store simulator, which I'm sure exists out there,
Probably.
but because I know we have the
shop simulator, you download the mods, you can go out of business.
Oh yeah. I would love to actually have a GameStop simulator where like, you know, you got to go around and spray Glade occasionally to make it smell less weird. And then like, you know, go put a higher price sticker on the lower price sticker, but just put it on top. Take the art out of the sleeve and put the sticker intentionally on the box.
Oh my God,
man. Hear me out though. This is a fun game idea though. Like you got to admit it's pretty good. Yeah. Tell the kid begging for posters to leave like that. Like I would love this game. This is fun.
Find the two random children's parent. Like where are they? They're somewhere in the mall. Or they just drop them off here. Like
what if it was like a Five Nights at Freddy's but with a GameStop? I feel like we have an idea, man. I feel like we have concepts here that are worth exploring.
All right, Chat GPT, make me a game.
It would probably sell pretty well.
All right, well, that's the only remaining question we had. So, Sam, great show. Thank you for hanging out with me as usual. You want everyone know where they can find you, my friend.
Yeah, you can find me over on TikTok and YouTube and all these other places at JamPackSam. I'm hanging out on Blue Sky a little more, on Thread still a little bit, and I'm just having a good time, man. I'm out there. We'll talk about the Developer Direct here in a couple of weeks, and I've got a lot of cool content lined up. Pretty excited for the future. And then also we have, of course, everything that we do here every week. We have a lot of cool stuff coming. A lot of conversations in 2025 that I'm sure are going to be good. So you can find me here too.
Absolutely. Everyone go check Sam out if you haven't for some reason. That'd be crazy. I don't know what you've been doing. You can find me at the Muffin Mon everywhere. It's a 1-7I-0-7A. Follow us at Save the Game Media over on Blue Sky to stay up to date with all of our latest content. We just put out our Game of the Year episode, so if you haven't checked that out, please do. Until next week,